So a bit more of a detailed look at the 928 GT, 1990s, early 90s, getting towards the end of the run out of these things. Porsche had decided to make somewhere in between the S4 and the Club Sport, the GT. It had slightly flared arches compared to the standard one, I'm told, but not as much as then the GTS, which was the run-out one with the 5.5 litre engine. This had a 5 litre, but with hotter cams and a modified, I think, ECU to change the fueling. Porsche claimed only an extra, I think, 5 or 10 brake horsepower more than the S4 because they were similar in terms of price, but apparently these have quite often been dynoed at more like 350 brake and 300 at the rear wheels, which is pretty hot for the day. You know, obviously we powers, you know, with turbochargers and everything else now is a bit more straightforward. But this was a dream car when I was growing up in the 80s. I went on a field trip to London when it was the boom. You know, I was only a kid at the back of the coach looking at these, what I thought were catfish looking like cars going up the M25, and absolutely fell in love with the things. So eventually managed to beg, borrow and steal, swap cars and all sorts to get this one. It's very high mileage, but it's been well looked after. Doctor owner originally, and just ace interior. See, does make a really cool sound. I'll fire it up in a second, but yeah, obviously the whole of this binnacle moves. I don't change it too much because wiring in 928s when they're sort of this old can be problematic, although at the moment pretty much everything works after having gone through the relays that are under here and cleaned them all up a little bit. It's crazy interior, very Millennium Falcon, I think was one of the comments from one of the great YouTubers on Porsches. I think he's right to sort of invoke that feeling. It is a fantastic car to drive, much more sporty than you think, the GT, probably more sporty, and yeah, maybe even ideal really for a GT. Quite really responsive steering and quite hard suspension, and that really hot cam that comes on at 4,000 revs and takes off. The dreaded dogleg gearbox, which was the ultimately cool when I was, you know, first, so then second, third, fourth, fifth, obviously when you're racing. But you know, now it's just as easy to put it in reverse and go backwards with the lights, which isn't very cool. So I've got to keep saying to myself, dogleg, yeah, I'm driving it. But I think the factory fitted sunroof on these, I think that was about 2,000 quid, but originally it was one of the most expensive items that you could buy as an optional extra at the time. And it's got one of these blasted alarm systems. Come on, which button is it? That one? Oh well, I'll start it later. I need to give it a little bit of revs because it's got the usual 928 issue with the overfueling solenoid, which isn't quite running right, but as soon as it's warmed up it's fine. It sits perfectly at just below 1,000 RPM, whatever it is. But I'll swap spaces so I can fire it up. I don't think you can beat a V8 burble, particularly slightly tuned V8s. This one's a fairly over square V8, so it's got that slightly more of a pedigree to it. Differential system needs bleeding. It's got the 959 limited slip diff that's hydraulically operated. I'm told that you can throw some errors, but generally if they're bled, it's full of hydraulic fluid, that sorts itself out. But it doesn't, you know, it doesn't affect it, but it does need sorting. Tyre pressure, it had the first ever, I think, apart from the 959, so first production run use of tyre pressure sensors, and it was notoriously rubbish, and Porsche charged £1,000 a wheel to repair it. But it's, you know, you can buy something online now that plugs into the tyres, valves or whatever, for like 50 quid. That's more reliable. So I'm just gonna link over that switch. I think there's a pin you can solder over, and that goes away, because I've had the alloy wheels done up, and I'll show them in a bit. So externally, these are the alloys I had refurbished, complete with the remade P7s, which just look so like I remember they used to have those on them. It's that pattern, it's really cool. Not the world's greatest tyre now, but Longstone remanufactures them, or has them made somewhere, the original pattern and everything. This ran at 40 psi apparently, and you've got 16s on the rear and 15s on the front, just to add some complication. But two 5s and I think 2 4.5s on the rear from memory. Yeah, 2 4.5s. But yeah, really cool. On the GT you've got twin mufflers, and that's it really. But yeah, a little look around the older 90s beauty. Apparently one of these was clocked as, I think, the fastest production car, the S4. Someone got 171 out of an S4. And I'm told one of these went even quicker, but it was unofficial. So I think someone got the best part of wound one up to about 180. Which is, for the 90s, was one of their really quick cars. I mean, it wasn't sort of Lamborghini or Testarossa, but it was not exactly a slouch either. Probably more reliable than those two though. This has done 235,000 miles, and you know, galvanised, so not much rust, if any. Engine seems pretty good. Can't see if there's any issue with it. It seems to pick up and go like a rocket. Just a really well made, really designed, well designed car. What a treat. I won't probably have it for long. Never do you, when you get these flash cars? But I'm enjoying it while I've got it. And you know, trying to make a video of it so I can remember it when I have to move it on maybe, but for now it's mine. Anyway, ta-ra for now.